Hey, gang. Welcome to the Power of Nine podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert. Today's guest is a culture strategist that has helped evolve some of the Twin Cities' best places to work. Please welcome today's guest, Chelsey Paulson. Chelsey, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Aaron.
Awesome. I am so pumped to have you on. It's shocking to me that we've only known each other really for like 4 months. And the way that we met was the most random. It's just, this is kind of how both of our lives intersect, right? Is 4 months ago, we were introduced by Jamie Tates, who's the CEO of Keystone, where you're at. And she was introduced to me by Darren Lynch, which is a guest on our show. And so just how crazy we've become such fast friends and kind of partners and things like that. It's so awesome to have you on.
Yeah, it's so fun. And it's just interesting the circle of life and how things just keep integrating. And the more we talk, the more people we have in common. And it's just, our lives have become very small very quickly over the last few months.
Yeah. And you have a little tan going here because you just got back from Florida. And so you're about to be feeling pretty good about that whole situation. Although we're recording this in mid-April or early April here, and it's a little gloomy outside. So hopefully you're settling in okay after being gone for a little bit.
Yes, got my vitamin D. My ghost skin is gone for the time being anyway. So life is good.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm going to get started here. I want to make sure we got enough time, and I want to make sure that our listeners aren't going to be sitting and listening to a podcast for 2 hours. So we're going to dig right into it. So I want to start at the time where you grew up here. So you are a northern Minnesota gal from Bemidji, right?
Born and raised.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your experience being born and raised in Bemidji.
So small town feel for sure, right? The city itself and the greater limits is about 15,000. So not super small, but small enough where you got to be careful what you do and who you talk to because word gets around quickly.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I love a lot of outdoor stuff, a lot of lake living and boating, wakeboarding, fishing, a lot of fishing trips. I grew up with 2 brothers in a neighborhood full of boys. And so I joke that someday I'm going to write a book and I'm going to title it Growing Up with Boys because I just learned so much. And I feel like my life and my personality was shaped by who I grew up with, which is normal for everyone. But I just think that, growing up with brothers and in a neighborhood of boys and just surrounded by that, it really made me who I am today. And I'm very thankful for that. So yeah, it was a great experience. Loved it. I love going back to Bemidji, but I do not want to live in Bemidji again. Yeah. My husband would move up there in a heartbeat, but I love the Twin Cities and I am not leaving here.
Did that shape a lot of the things that you do now for hobbies and the things that you enjoy doing for fun?
Yeah, I would say it does. My husband is from the Twin Cities, but he loves the outdoors and camping and boundary water trips and fishing and all of those things. So we were able to connect over that. So we've brought our kids up in the same way, very active, very big outdoor family, biking and hiking and running and, all of those things. So I think that outdoor aspect which is why, going to Florida when you're in Minnesota in the spring or end of winter is so beneficial.
Yeah. And you grew up in family business, right?
I did. So my dad and my uncle actually were both part owners in North Country Business Products. And we transitioned into an ESOP, to an employee-owned organization. And so 2003, we became 100% employee owned, and so that they weren't owners, official owners. They were all employee owners at that point, but still the family feel. We were a larger organization. We were about 250 at our max. And so it had a mid-sized company feel, which I really liked. I never thought I would work there ever. When I was 12 years old, I did inventory for the company up in Bemidji. But other than that, there was not something I was ever interested in going into. And then I graduated from college and was asked if the sales director asked my dad if I'd have any interest in working there. And he said, I have no idea. Why don't you ask her? So I interviewed for the position and got it. So I had the opportunity to work with my dad. He's been there. He's still the chairman of the board. So he's been there over 40 years, 45 years or something crazy like that. And I made it 15 years before I left. So it was an awesome experience. It's fun to be able to see your parents in action. And I was thankful that I didn't have a direct report to him. For a small
Yeah.
period of time I did, but most of the time there was someone in between him and I. So we didn't have to worry about the family dynamics as much, which I know a lot of family run businesses run into issues there.
Yeah.
So we really didn't have to worry about that as much as some do.
Is North Country Business Products one of the larger businesses in Bemidji? Or
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. It's certainly one of the premier places to work and one of the larger organizations for sure. So it was, yeah, very well known in the community, and it's a national company now. We have 15 we like I still work there. I worked there for so long. I'm still on the board.
On
So
board.
I
Yeah,
think
right.
I still can say we have 15 locations really around the Midwest, but then have
Mm.
employees all over the country and have clients all over the country as well.
Was it a pretty big deal then when you decided that you were going to go to the University of Minnesota?
Oh,
And so,
yes.
right?
My heart
Yeah.
starts racing when we talk about it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what was that like? You have Bemidji State, which is right in your backyard, which is an awesome school, and if anybody watches the hockey tournament, is a premier hockey school, right?
Go Beavers.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. And there's so many great northern Minnesota schools that are within reasonable driving distance, but you chose to go to the University of Minnesota. What was the thought process behind that at the time?
Yeah, so I knew I didn't really want to go too far from home. You kind of flirt with the idea of, oh, let's go to California, Arizona, or somewhere warm. But I like the seasons. I like winter.
Hmm.
And so I decided I didn't want to leave and go too far. We're a very tight knit family, and so my brothers were still. I'm the oldest of three, and so my brothers were still in high school. I wanted to be around for their hockey tournaments, and just to spend time with family when I could. So I looked at a bunch of different schools around Minnesota, and the U of M was the last school that I went to. And I literally walked onto campus and I said, this is where I need to be. This is it. Like, I don't need to look around anymore. I know this is where I'm supposed to be. And my dad was floored. And he's like, that this school is about 5 times the size of our town. And I said, yep,
Yeah.
I need to spread my wings. I need to go. I need to do something different. And it was the best decision. And I loved everything about the U. I loved the diversity of it. I loved the club activities they have. I was in the ski and snowboard club. And, it was just like, it was a really, really fun experience. D1 school, big
Yeah.
into sports. And so going to all of that was an absolute blast.
Did you then, right when you finished college, did you go right back up to work for the family business?
I did. And again, not by design. That was not the plan at all. I was approached and asked, I took a couple of months and did some traveling abroad and went to Europe. And then I nannied for the rest of the summer, and then was going to really try to look for something in the fall. And I was asked if I wanted to come on to North Country. And I said, sure, I got nothing else planned. So why not?
Yeah.
Again, not part of the plan at all, but now looking back, I couldn't imagine anything different. And what I learned while I was there and experienced, and the mentoring that I had, the opportunities I was given, it was a really cool experience.
And so now with all the work that you do with, I'm not gonna jump to the touchdown call here, but I am gonna talk a little bit about the work that you do with people and culture. And you look back on that time of when you were re-entering the family business, and you did allude to earlier that you had to interview for the job. What was that process like?
Yeah.
Like, that had to be a little weird.
It was really weird. And, my dad had always told both me and my brothers, like, do not feel like you have any, responsibility to come work at the company. Like, he never pressured us. We really didn't ever even talk about it. And so these were people I was interviewing with, the sales director who I had known pretty much my whole life,
Yeah.
and I come into this organization with these people who were at my, baptism. And, I wasn't married at the time, but then they all came to my wedding. And so there's
Right.
people that I've known my whole life. And so it was an interesting situation to walk into. And I came into sales, and I didn't have any sales experience, and I ended up not really even liking sales that I was in. It was more about what I was selling, because now I'm in sales and I absolutely love it. And this is where I need to be. But so I quickly moved into HR. And so the
Yeah.
HR director there kind of saw something in me that could be good in HR. And so she quickly snagged me, and I got into recruiting and training. Then quickly, came into an HR manager position and was overseeing people and overseeing, the vast majority of our culture work, our people strategies, all of those things that really set me up for success and where I'm at today. And
Yeah.
so it's just interesting to see how life works. And if I wouldn't have had all the experience I had for 15 years at North Country, I wouldn't be able to do what I do today. And I wouldn't have ever been led here. So the opportunities I was given at North Country, taking a chance on you and believing in you, and really, and my mentor there, Michelle, she was the HR director. She just gave everything to me, and she just helped me and supported me and guided me and gave me the reins to run with and included me on all the big things. And so I just look back at that experience and thank her for what she did, because I wouldn't have gotten to where I was at today under a lot of leadership, because a lot of leaders, they don't take that chance on people often. And so I'm just really thankful for all that she was able to provide me.
In my experience, I've with people in the HR or human capital side of things, people have I think there's kind of two routes people can take. They can either take like this talent strategy side and like be on the front end of helping shape that culture from that perspective. And then there's the systems and the process, which is all the rules and regulations and all that fun stuff that maybe I'm not the best at. And then I frankly, there's probably people out there that are unicorns that have the ability to do both. Would you say that you lean a little bit more on that talent strategy side, the front end of things?
To some degree, and I'm not a process person, which is why I needed to get out of HR. That was holding me back and kind of draining me of some of my energy. What I loved was the people and the culture strategy side of things. I did recruiting for a very long time. I was happy to get out of recruiting and do bigger picture things. And where I really thrived was, and this is where you kind of talk about unicorns, and people kept telling me, you're not the typical HR person. And so that's what got me thinking, maybe I need to look at doing something else. But because I was involved at such a high level at such an early stage in my career, that I was able to think strategically a lot sooner than a lot of people were, because of what I was exposed to. And so culture, creating committees within our organization to drive culture. We're an employee-owned company, and so it's a very unique culture with that. We had a lot of leadership changes happen. My dad and then the two other executives that were the previous owners were all transitioning out at about the same time. And so working through that whole procedure, I hired my dad's replacement, which is interesting concept all in itself. And that replacement didn't work out. So that was even worse. Second time though around, we had good success the second time around. But so it just that piece of it, and being on the board and being on the senior leadership team, I brought EOS into our organization because I knew that could really benefit our company and just where we were at. So those are the things that I loved doing, were the bigger picture, more strategic things that had to do with the people in the company.
So you've alluded to this multiple times, that employee-owned company. So you've built a really good career of working with a lot of employee-owned companies because of that experience that you've had and being on the board and thinking strategically from that standpoint. What are some of the things that come up? I kind of wrote myself a note here of like when and why. So when a business is thinking about becoming an employee-owned organization, what are some of the trigger points, or what are some of the thought processes, and why should they think about doing that?
Yeah, I would say there's usually two reasons why people would transition to an employee-owned company. One is it's an exit strategy. So if you are the owner of a company, you don't have a child to pass it on to, or someone who wants to buy the business. It's a way to transition out of the business, and then you only have to find a CEO, right, or the leader of the organization, versus someone to lead and purchase the company. And then it's a way to give back to the employees. ESOPs are very big on culture, and because the whole premise is that the employees own the organization. Every year the company is evaluated and stock price is determined, and then the stocks are allocated out to the employees, given to the employees. So you do it as an employee recognition kind of a program. And so usually it's either a succession exit strategy, Or the company just says, you know what, these employees have helped us get to where we're at. I know they're going to help us to get to where we're going. And I want to give back to them in a way that's really meaningful. And so then they transition to an employee-owned company. It doesn't have to be 100%. You could do 20%, 40%. You can increase it, after, years. And so there's a lot of variety within that, but it's always to give back to the employees and to really thank them for the work they've done to help you get to where you're at.
And I think I have some friends that have worked with employee-owned companies, and then I have other friends that own employee or lead employee-owned companies. And I think one of the things that you said is that it is a culture strategy, but it isn't the only culture strategy, because I think a lot of people learn the hard way that just because employees own a little bit of the business doesn't mean that it's going to just be all rainbows and unicorns, right?
No, and because when you first, and there's a couple caveats to this. So when you first transition to an employee-owned company, the previous owners who sold to the employees often think, oh, well, they're going to be jumping up and down. They're going to be so excited about this. This is the best thing. But in reality, people don't understand what it means. It's not a common, business strategy. And so a lot of people don't even know what it means to be employee-owned, or the whole, what's in it for me. They don't get it. So it can take 2 to 3 years. And so that's where having a good communication strategy pre-ESOP and then after you made the transaction is so important, to make sure that people understand what's happening, why it's happening, what's in it for me, what's the long-term strategy here, to really understand that. And then developing a internal committee that really supports and enhances the ESOP, and again, education, communication, engagement, those types of things.
Right.
So that's one caveat. But then also, the longer you're in ESOP, then you get people who think, oh, well, this is my right? I've been here, like I deserve this. You get that kind of entitlement situation going on. And so you got to balance that. And it's not the only strategy, it's a piece of the strategy.
Yeah. So I do think that there's so many things to unpack there, and change the term. You said communication, you said all these different things that you need to think about. I really think it's the change management of that, right? Of like having a good dialed in change management process heading into and coming out of that transaction. I think that's going to be really, really key.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is. And understanding what that process looks like and who you need to get involved and how many times you need to communicate things and re-educate on things. It's a process, and it's continuous. It doesn't just end. That the change doesn't just end. It's out. There's always something else you need to be continuously thinking about in regards to communication and change management.
Yeah. Now we all know that you're not there anymore. And so that I think about just the mental anguish that you were going over. And when we were doing our prep call, you said a really, really interesting term of mental head trash. And so talk a little bit about that process of when you've made the emotional and mental decision that you needed to transition out of that organization, and that you were going to end up going over to Keystone.
Yeah. So I don't know what this says about me, but it took me about 2 years, quite honestly, to like really get over my head trash and be okay with the decision that I was making. My dad said the day I started at North Country, if you ever feel like you need to leave, you're not happy here, you want to do something different, then you go do what you need to do. Do not stay here because of me. He was very clear about that up front and told me that multiple times over the years. So I was not being pressured to stay by anyone other than myself. Right. And when I look at the organization, my dad's been there, 45 years. My uncle was there over 40 years. I mean, the longevity in that company is outstanding, which is a lot of it's attributed to the culture and to the ESOP. So as people started telling me, you're not the traditional HR professional, I really started thinking about that. Well, what am I then if I'm not HR? This is all I've ever been in my professional career. So that's where it kind of started is, well, what could I do? Where would I go? What would I do? If I'm not going to do HR, then what would I do? And I had opportunities. I had higher level, higher paying positions I could have gone to in HR in other companies, but it just wasn't that intriguing to me. And so I spent a full year digging into who am I? Who do I want to be? What do I want to do? What do I want to spend my time doing? What am I passionate about? And really getting that dialed in. Yeah. And then it was really interesting because it was really about the same time I got that dialed in of what I thought I wanted to do. that my CEO brought up to me I reported directly to the CEO, brought up to me in my annual review. He said, "What's next for you, Chelsey? Like, I know being the director of HR at North Country is not the end all for you."
Wow.
And I'm like, "Well, it's amazing that you just brought that up because I've been spending the last year really thinking about this." And so he was amazing. And again, I just had such tremendous support there from any of the leaders that I ever had there. He just said, "All I ask is that you help with the transition plan. You give me plenty of warning of, when you're going to go do something, and you help with the transition plan." He said, "That's all I ask. I don't want you to leave, but I'm not going to hold you back from doing something." So that, to have his support, we talked about it every quarter, and just kind of where are things at and where's your head at and what are you looking at? He was supportive of encouraging me to go do other things and shadow people, which is part of how I got to where I'm at. Is I shadowed Jamie, our CEO, on some of her EOS sessions and got a deeper dive and understanding into what implementing EOS looks like. So once I kind of got through that, I had his approval. Then it was like, okay, now this is serious, right? I'm actually going to start looking for something. But it was still not till the end of that year that I met Jamie, and got introduced to her and so forth. So then from there, things just kind of spiraled. One person told me, "Be careful, because once you make the decision mentally that you're leaving and you're going to do something different, things will start happening very quickly." And they did. And so it was the end of that year that I got introduced to Jamie, and I was on her podcast, and I just understood more about what Keystone did. And I told her, after I was on her podcast, I was sitting in her office. I remember it as clear as day. I told her, I said, "I want to work for you." I've never been that bold and said, that wasn't something that I had done in the past. And so I was so nervous, but again, just one thing led to another. And she said, "Well, that's kind of amazing, because I was thinking of hiring someone within the next year." And I said, "That's great, because I have some things I need to wrap up before I can leave." And so then COVID hit, and it was like, oh, well, I can't, as the HR leader, I can't leave a company in the middle of a global pandemic.
Right.
So I had to work through some things there, and I feel like I got them to a good point. I hired my replacement, trained her in, was able to transition and kind of do both for a while, and then came on full time with Keystone last summer. So it was very serendipitous in so many situations, and everything happens for a reason. And I was led here, and the background that I have, the experiences I have with North Country and the ESOPs and the culture piece and the presenting and all the different things I've been involved in have led me here and have made me successful now here, to a point where I took on this role at Keystone, and it wasn't a transition. I was just all of a sudden working here full time, and I was just in it. There was no ramp up time. So it was amazing.
And you came on there now, so your title or your role is COO and Integrator. So those of our listeners that don't know what integrator means, there's a visionary integrator concept that's part of the EOS program. Talk a little bit about your role now at Keystone, both from a integrator standpoint, so from a leadership perspective within the organization, and the work that you do with clients as a culture strategist.
Yeah. So inside the organization, we're a small organization. We're a small boutique consulting firm. So it's not like we have 100 employees, but I manage the employees, manage the hiring process, I manage any internal processes that we have, manage our P&L, manage our payroll, manage any internal processes and systems that we have. I oversee that. And so you talk about the visionary. So Jamie's our visionary. So our visionaries are those who have 100 new ideas every single day, and 2 are maybe good. And so my role is to take her 100 ideas and say, okay, these 2, let's run with these. These ones are good. And so then I help make those actually come to fruition and make them actually happen within our organization. So that's kind of my, I'd say that's, with the size of our organization, that's about 20% of my time is spent doing integrator type responsibilities. And then the other half is really business development and executing on the work that we do. So we are management consultants and working on strategy. And so what we really do is EOS implementation, and helping companies become stronger, more healthy organizations and healthy leadership teams, and reaching the results that they're trying to get to. So that's really what EOS does. Proven process. Most companies have heard of it. A lot of organizations within the Twin Cities are running on EOS. We have a ton of EOS implementers in this area. It's a very competitive area, but I just saw the value in that from what we did at North Country and the impact that it can have. that I knew I wanted that to be a piece of what I did. So that's a piece of what I do and what Keystone does. And then the other piece is on the culture side. And what we realized with our clients doing EOS is that they all kept having the same issues around culture. What is culture? How do we impact culture? How do we measure culture? What's our role as leaders in the culture? And so we developed our own culture model that's comprised of 20 different cultural elements that we feel make up culture. And so we survey on those elements, we do focus groups and interviews around those, and then we report out on the results and come up with a strategy plan, right? Mm-hmm. So what's our 1-year goal? What are our rocks that we're going to have? And really helping hold the teams accountable for following through on the survey results. Because the number one issue with surveys is you do them and then you do nothing with the results. Yeah. So really taking that, what's the change management approach? What's the communication plan to the employees on why we're doing this, what the results are, and then what we're going to do about it. So really helping to drive that change within organizations. And it's just so rewarding. It's so fun to do. And it's so fun to see progress in companies and for people to say, I get it now. I get what culture is. I get what my role is. I get how we can make an impact by being laser focused on what are the 2 or 3 things we're going to work on. There's 20 elements, but we can't do all 20 at once. So what are the 1 or 2 that we're going to work on this year and get really good at them? So it's been so much fun. I enjoy it. I'm passionate about it. I get to do every day what I love doing. And I know a lot of people can't say that. So I feel very fortunate that I get to do that.
Yeah. To me, again, it's shocking that you've only been there, a year, right?
Not even a year.
Right.
Yeah.
The amount of impact that you've had there. And I know Jamie has said that to me multiple times. It's a totally different company than what she has expected it to, or she expected it to go with you guys as a team. And I'm a believer that behind every great visionary is an awesome integrator that is able to put that action plan down and get after it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any, before we transition into the 9 questions, do you have any like a fun success story in the last year of some engagement that you worked with a client on and they maybe had an aha moment or something like that?
Yeah, I think a client that I'm working with right now, and their aha moment with culture specifically and culture strategy is the understanding of even just within the leadership team. So, there's within the whole company, there's, I think 25 leaders. And so how, even just within that team, what's the culture within the leadership team? And just really having that aha moment of how we act is how everyone else is going to act. Mm-hmm. And, theoretically, that, right? Like, do as I say, walk the walk, talk the talk, all of those things you're supposed to be doing. But when you really dig into what does that mean and using actual specifics from feedback that I got from the interviews that I did with their teams, they're just like, wow, like I knew what I did was important, but I didn't realize the full impact that I was having as a leader. Yeah. So to see leaders really take hold of that and take responsibility for it, those are the leaders that you want to have in your company. And then so from an HR and from a CEO perspective, what they're seeing is, I know now who my future leaders are, right? And maybe they're not on the senior leadership team today, but at some point, these 4 people are really shining during this process. And I know that they have a strong future at our organization. So it's kind of a few aha moments, but just that whole realization of impact that leaders have and understanding that, I think is a key thing that most companies realize when they go through this process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got to just say too, I've gotten to know you so well because you're one of our Coalition 9 facilitators and you and Jamie are both members. And I want to thank you so much for being a part of that and the impact that you've had on so many of the leaders that we're working with, using your experience in not only HR, but working with other clients and then trickling that down into our community has been super impactful. I'm super proud to have you and Keystone as a part of our partnership plan.
Yeah. And it's so fun. And it's, being a part of a highly engaged, highly motivated group of individuals, it's invigorating. We get off of our Coalition 9 calls and it's just like, whether it's the one I'm facilitating or the one I'm a part of, both,
Yeah.
you just leave feeling like ready to take on the world, you
Yeah.
know, because it's all these high performing individuals who have high expectations of themselves and wanting to do really cool things. And it's such a cool community to be a part of.
Awesome. I'm gonna cut that out of some kind of future content that you just said, because I think you said it off the cuff and it was awesome. So
Cool.
I'm gonna make that a commercial, just so you know, FYI. So anybody who's listening to this, you're gonna hear that 900 times over in the future. All right. So we're gonna hard transition here into the 9 questions. So those of you that have not heard this is just 9 random questions. Chelsey, can you confirm that you have no idea what I'm about to ask you?
I have no idea, and I'm so excited.
All right, good. Well, I'm glad that's the word you used. All right, first question. What is the strangest thing you have ever eaten?
Strangest thing I've ever eaten. Um, Gosh, I don't know that I've really eaten anything. I mean, frog legs.
Oh,
That's pretty
that's
weird, I
strange.
guess.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
would say people from other parts of the country that didn't even know that that was a thing, right?
yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Just so you know, I don't normally jump in on this, but I one time had unagi eel
Yeah.
at a sushi restaurant. It was horrible. It tastes like dirt. So if you ever have the
Wow.
opportunity,
You might have just had a bad one because
uh,
it can be really good. So you might have
oh,
just had a dud.
oof, it was rough. Anyway, all right. What was your first concert?
First concert was Tim McGraw with my mom.
Oh, sweet. Wow, with your
Yeah.
mom.
And now
Cool.
to this day, we've been to like, I lost count, but like 9 or 10 Tim McGraw concerts
Wow.
together. I will never go to Tim McGraw concert without my mom.
Yeah, that's awesome. How old were you?
I was a junior in high school.
Sweet. Okay. Cool. What was the longest road trip that you've ever been on?
It was my boyfriend at the time, husband now. We drove out to the Gorge, which is an outdoor
Mm.
amphitheater in state of Washington. Amazing concert venue. I'd highly recommend it. A long trip, but it was a lot of fun.
This does not have to be business related. What is your biggest fear?
Mm. Gosh, I'm a mom and it like gets me teary-eyed, like
Yeah.
losing one of my kids. Like that
Yeah.
is, oh man, that's a huge fear of mine. And you know, finding that balance of not over momming and I let all 3 of my kids, they're 9, 6, and 5, and I let them take the dog on a walk yesterday morning
Yeah.
by themselves. I was like anxious the whole entire time they were gone. I'm like, okay, they're back. I needed a massage afterwards because I was
Right.
so anxious about it, but I let
Right.
them do it. So that was good.
Yeah, that's good. That's way to keep it together on that one. Thank you
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much. All right. This is not
Uh,
one of those shows. All right. What TV sitcom family would you like to be a part of?
oh, geez. I don't know that. I mean, it's not technically a family, but I see them as a family. Friends.
Friends? Yeah, that
Yeah.
right.
I mean, just like so fun. Grew up, watched every single episode. Just they're the tight knit, the open and honest, and just like the strong relationships that go through life together, and the ups and the downs, and the chaos and the dysfunction, and it's just. I think that would be a really cool family to be a part of.
They were kind of a family, right?
Yeah,
I think they all lived together at one
yeah,
point, maybe not at the same
exactly.
time, but like it just was over all those years they were together, it was like a family. So
Yeah.
I say yes to that one. Good one.
Okay,
When
good.
I say the word leader, who comes to mind?
Oh well, right now I say Jamie,
Yeah.
my CEO. She's to me. She walks the walk, talks the talk. You see a lot of presenters who do a lot of like presenting up on stage that just they talk about things rather than in real life they don't
Yeah.
actually do
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
And she's authentic, and I've learned so much from her in the short time that I've been here, authenticity being one of them. I struggle with always needing to be seen as very competent and capable with things. And so being able to be open and authentic, and I don't know something or I need help with something is hard for me. And she's great at that, and just being open and honest with feelings and emotions. And so I've learned so much in the short time that I've been here.
Awesome. Awesome. Great answer. If I say the word technology, what is one word that explains your adeptness to technology?
Hmm. Um, Gosh, the word that keeps coming to my mind is like mediocre or intermediate. It's like, I know, here's my internal struggle with this. I know the importance of it. And I mean, I'm not a paper and pen gal. Like I am I'm a digital to-do person and, all of that. I'm an email. I don't print out a million things. Like I'm primarily a digital person. I do have some hesitations with new technology as you roll things out. And in my mind, every time I get this hesitation, I'm like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person who's getting older and is hesitant and pushing back on new technology and new systems and new things. And so just dig in and do it. So
Yeah.
I want to be better than I am, but I'm somewhere in the middle there.
Is TikTok on your phone?
No, TikTok is not.
That wasn't part of the 9 questions.
Clubhouse is, that's good,
Oh,
right?
there we go. Right. I'll take that. That's newer than TikTok. So
Yeah.
good.
There we go.
All right. Good work. All right. What is one thing that most people would not know about you?
So this is always funny, and I wish that I could be with every person as they're listening to this, because reactions to this is always the best. When I went to the University of Minnesota, I told you I love sports, and I have a big personality, and I was asked to and did Goldy Gopher. So I was the mascot at the University of Minnesota, Goldy Gopher, for 3 years.
That's crazy.
So
what is that world like? Like, so you're in that costume.
Oh,
no one
man.
knows who you are, right? Like, I think
No.
the last I've heard from people that have either done this or know about this whole culture is that you can't even like talk about it until after you're graduated. And I think you're even like, isn't this kind of a big deal that you're talking to me?
Yeah. So, and that I get very anxious talking about
Yeah.
it, because, so let me rewind just to the beginning. So, you try out to be on the team. So there's a team of people, and you try out as a week-long tryouts. So a lot of physical things to make sure that you are fit enough to be in the suit and to do all the things and run all the stairs. You think of, Williams Arena and all the stairs, or Mariucci Arena, or football stadiums, or whatever. There's a lot of stairs, and so we did a lot of stair running, a lot of push-ups and sit-ups, and all those things. Did a lot of creative situations to make sure that we were creative, and game situations, make sure you understood sports and games, and when to cheer, when to not cheer, things like that. So I went through that process, and I made it onto the team. To this day, I am still the only female that has ever been on the Goldy squad.
Really?
And so that to me is almost as cool, if not even cooler, than having been Goldy Gopher.
Yeah.
But yes, it was a secret. My roommates knew because they had to know, and my family knew. Otherwise, no one else knew. I didn't start dating my boyfriend until the very end of my time doing that. So he didn't even know until once I was done. It's a culture. It's amazing. All the Big Ten mascots would come together for mascot camp. And so we'd get together and be running around in parks, and there'd be 3 Goldy Gophers and 3 Buckies and 3 Herkies and 3, just like 3 baby Jays and Big J, running around. And it was just like, it was so much fun. And we were considered athletes. So we lettered, we got letter jackets, we did all the things. But it was a commitment, but it was so fun. We had practices, we did games, we did weddings, we did anniversaries. But yeah, it was such a secret that now, even today, how many years later, it seems weird to tell people that I did that, because for so long it was a secret.
Well, I'm honored that you dropped that here, and now hopefully, the multitude of people that listen to this, and if that multitude is 10 or 1,000, whatever it is, now know that. So that's fantastic.
So my fear is that one of the other Goldies is going to hear this, and they're going to think down on me for saying it. So
all right. So let me know if that is actually a thing. I'd be curious. All right. Final question. What is your go-to for inspiration?
Wow, that's a really good question. I would have to say, I'm a huge learner. I love to learn. I love to read. I love to listen to things. So I would just say, in general, it would be podcasts. I love listening to how other people are doing things and just getting in. You can find anything on
Right.
podcasts, right? Any topic, any area. So if I need inspiration in anything specific, whether it's, information on leadership development or sales or anything, you can find a podcast on anything, and it's just really fun to listen to other people's perspectives on how they do something.
Yeah.
And so I would say that that's my biggest source of inspiration, is just listening to others and gaining feedback from multiple areas so that I can kind of take what I learned and run with it in my own way.
What's this is again not in front of the 9 questions, but whatever. I'm gonna make it number 10. It's fine. What is your go-to podcast?
Oh, geez. It depends which area we're talking about. I guess if I were to say more like leadership kind of focused, I'm a huge Brene Brown fan.
Yeah.
So I love both of her podcasts, Unlocking Us and Dare to Lead. She has amazing guests on there and super inspirational. Almost everyone I listen to, I end up buying a book because a lot of authors are on there. And
Yeah.
that would be one of the top that I listen to most frequently. And then I have to say, Keystone Superpower Success podcast. I need to plug that one in there.
There we go. There
Because
we
we have
go.
some really cool guests on there too. And Jamie and I have done a number of podcasts together on there. And we did a flip the mic where I actually interviewed Jamie, which was really
Sweet.
fun. So yeah, that's a good one too.
Sweet. Well, that is an awesome transition, Chelsey. I'm super pumped that you are on. I can't thank you enough. We've become fast friends, and our organizations align so well. I love having you as part of the team. Where can people find you?
Yes. So LinkedIn is a great spot to connect with me. Just Chelsey Paulson on there. Keystone, like I said, we have our Superpower Success podcast, which is an awesome way to learn and get inspired on all things leadership and culture and personal development and growth. So I think that's really great. And then Keystone's also on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, of course, all of the areas. So those are all awesome areas to reach out to us as well.
And it's called Keystone Group International. And I'm pumped to see in the future how you guys utilize that international. That is going to be a big part of your future. I'm excited to see your growth.
Go big or go home, right?
That's right. I love it. Chelsey, thank you so much for coming on. On behalf of Chelsey Paulson, this has been the Power of 9 podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert, and I want to thank you for the privilege of your time.